Hey, welcome back to the channel. Working in the backyard today. Picked up an automatic turn hose reel. I've never owned one. I did a bunch of research. Picked out this one. I went with the Hozereel. It's like hose reel with a Z. Got it on Amazon. So after all my reviews, this is the one I went with. I saw one guy who tested a bunch of these, and this was his overall pick. So yeah, we're gonna do basically install, review, go over the good, bad, what I like, what I think could be better, and if I think it's worth the value. So let's get started. So I got this on Amazon, like I mentioned. I just went and rechecked. So I got it for 138 bucks was the current price when I bought it. So your price can vary. I'll leave a link down in the description below. I feel like it's a really good price. I was gonna get the hose link, which I think comes out of a company in Australia. That one's like 265 bucks for the same thickness of hose and length. So this is 5/8 hose, 100 foot. So anyway, I've just unboxed it. You got the hose reel here. It did come with like a variable nozzle, like fire hose nozzle, standard 10 position garden hose nozzle, flag screws, and also anchors for masonry if you want to install it in brick or stone. Extra gaskets, Teflon tape, a little bit of info. It's not great. This is, made in China, obviously. So a little bit of info, nothing special. And then it does come with a mount template, and it gives you dimensions between the screw holes. It's 5 screw holes to mount this. The feeder hose, which is about 6.5 feet long, but let's go ahead and look at the bracket. I really like the bracket. Here is the mounting bracket. This was one of my initial concerns when I started shopping for these online. I would have preferred a metal bracket, but almost all of them are plastic. But I'm happy to say this thing is like the beefiest plastic thing I've ever seen. I can't even move it. It's no deflection. It's heavily reinforced, solid wall. No deflection in it, very rigid. So I'm pretty happy about that. I don't have any concerns about this holding the weight of the hose reel. So that's great. The one issue, which is almost with all of these, is it won't fit a standard 4x4 post properly, if that's what you're going for. So the bracket's just, what was that, like 4 5/8, 4.5, but somewhere between there, wide. And it is 10.5 inches long. But where the outside screw holes are like just under 4 inches. I think on the template, let's see what that says. It's showing 3.6 to the center of these, 3.6 inches. So under 4. Problem is a 4x4 post, at least here in North America, isn't 4 inches wide. It's not only like 3.5. So if you're wanting to install this on a 4x4 post, you're going to need an extra block of wood on the post to fully secure it properly. If you were going to mount it to the side of your house or into masonry, that wouldn't be a problem. So something to keep in mind. But that was a problem with almost all of them, so I knew that before I purchased it. But I'm happy with this mount. I like it. This is the style, so it shows up. It has 5 points of attachment, and it just slips in. So some have like another post to secure it and some other stuff, but this one just rests in. It's easy to pop into the mount and then pull your hose reel out if you want to store it in the winter. So alright, let's keep on moving. Another little detail on the feeder quality. I like the quality of the hose. It's a thicker wall, it's a little stiffer. It's listed as heavy duty, so that's cool. Brass ends, rubber gaskets, the standard. It does come with this kind of solid plastic tool you can slip over the end to help tighten and remove the ends. That's kind of interesting, not bad. A lot of garden hoses will have a plastic sleeve down here that can slip over to do the same basic thing. So nothing crazy new or innovative, but it does have that. One kind of bad thing, well, I guess, pleasant surprise. It does have a QD fitting. So the normal garden hose nozzle has nothing, just standard, but this little Very nozzle came with a QD fitting, and I would say the only problem with that, it's the norm for your plastic ones. I've used lots of these over the years. They're pretty decent. and they're pretty cheap to replace if one starts leaking. So I have no problem using this kind of stuff. There's no valve inside, so if you wanted to pop this off and swap it, you know, like swap to this, if you had a fitting on here to go in, which I will do, there's no valve. So some of the nicer ones have valves in them. Like, so here's a Melnor. I've had this thing forever. So it's got the little valve seat in there. So you can change devices while the hose is pressurized without water spraying everywhere. So this one would not be able to do that. It's a straight through, kind of like this Gardenia one. It's also that style. Actually, this is the one that goes on your spigot. So ones without valves typically go on your spigot, so you can use the spigot still when no hose is attached. So that's kind of weird, because if it attaches to a hose end or a spigot, yeah, spigot would be fine, but hose end, it's got the hole. So I don't know. And it just gave me this one. Again, I wasn't expecting it. I probably won't use it. I mean, I may for the test just to see how it does, see if it leaks. But I'll probably end up swapping to one of these, you know, a little bit nicer ones that I have. I have a bunch of these things because I like to use those quick connects to swap stuff out. All right, I'm rambling. Let's go ahead and start with a little bit of the install. So I already discovered a problem I thought I would share. It's kind of dumb. So these are hex head. They take a 1/2 inch socket and then they have a Phillips. The problem, I'm going to be able to use it on every one except the center one. The hole for the center one is too big to be able to get a socket in. And this is like the skinniest 1/2 inch socket I have, and it will not go in to drive that. So I'll try to drive it as far as I can, but this is probably going to get stuck. I'm guessing that's why they added Phillips, but that's not how you drive in a lag. So kind of, yeah, whatever. Now, do I think the 5th one is super critical? I don't know. I think the 4 will be fine, but let's start mounting this, see how this goes. So the 1/2 inch socket I'm not hiding anything here. So this is the correct side socket for these lags. I went and got a 13 mil, which moves, is a little loose, so it's technically too big. But these things aren't cast or made very well. They're kind of rough. So my first one, the socket is stuck on. So I'm just going to leave it there for now. Put the rest in with a 13 mil, and then we'll come back later and pop that off after I tighten it down. I don't want to tighten down all the screws right away, so I want to get them all started. Yeah, so the 13, although it is technically not the correct size socket, it's not going to get stuck on me. That's fine. All right, I'll put the rest of these in. I got my level. I'll just level it off and tighten them up. All right, honestly, I don't recommend doing this, but I got a Phillips bit on my impact, and I'm gonna attempt to put this middle one in. It's plenty strong. I shouldn't do this, but I'm gonna do it for this. But if I strip this Phillips head out, I don't know how I would ever get this bolt back out unless I could get an easy out. You know, it's pretty deep in there, so I'd have to have an extension on an easy out to try to get it out. But I'm going to see if I can drive this with the Phillips just to see what you would get. Again, I would normally not do this, and I do not recommend doing this. Alright, it's seated. Threads are a little gooned because you know, you're not supposed to impact or drill with a Phillips. Are stupid. They should have made this hole bigger. So that's my biggest complaint so far. But let's get the Hozereel over here and mount it up. And as for the reel itself, if I had to guess, it's like 20 pounds. It's not that heavy. So it looks like you just line the 2 holes up and drop it in. And it can pivot in both directions. So that's kind of what it would look like. Pivot's nice. Seems pretty sturdy. It's kind of what it'll look like when not in use. So let's get the feeder hose over, get it hooked up to my hose, and attach that. Water is cut on. Don't see any leaks here. And I just snugged these by hand. I didn't put any tools. Now granted, I used the little plastic tool on these two connectors to snug it. But nothing crazy. Didn't do it super tight. And on this, just a little turn with the wrench after I snugged by hand. Nothing crazy. So water is on. And as you can see, this dial, because it's got the valve, doesn't leak. So that's why I prefer that style for changing stuff out. So I'm just gonna set you right here. Hopefully you can see what I'm doing. Now granted, this is the Melnor product. It's not what come with it. Unfortunately, I couldn't transfer that over to here. So make sure I am unlocked. So it's been about a month or so since I shot the first part of this video. So as I was hooking up the nozzle, my GoPro overheated and then I lost some of the footage. So I figured I would just use it for a while so I could also give you a review of how it's holding up. And you know, probably about 5 weeks now since I initially installed it. So here it is. This is kind of how I keep it, and I've kept the water turned on, which I wouldn't normally do. But with the feeder hose down there, nothing leaks. No leaks from the nozzle, nothing like that. It works great. My wife likes it here too, because you can just water her little tree she's got here. But no, it reaches all sides of my yard and even up the sides of my house in the backyard. So this location here is perfect for my space. I'm on about a ½ acre here. So for the fenced in part, this reaches everything, this 100 feet. It works great. Nice and smooth. It locks pretty much anywhere you stop. If you just slowly let it in, it'll then retract. And it retracts just fine full of water too. So it's on now, it's full of water. Obviously you shouldn't just let it there, it's locked. And then if I just give it another little pull and slowly let it in. But even when it's fully retracted all the way out, so that current corner of the yard is about 80-90 feet. So it reaches there fine, but I paid out the rest to fully remove it. And it's got a little like piece of tape when you're supposed to stop pulling out so you don't overextend it. So really happy with it. You know, it's kind of a drag, about the size of the mount. So you can see these screws come through on either side. And I might come up with a better solution, but you know, this works for now. Because these lag screws are still into this board, and then this board is screwed multiple times. So mounts nice and solid. No complaints. I did see it had an adjustment. So you can remove this cover piece. Just kind of clips on. There's like clips all around the outside. And it has an ability to loosen or tighten the tension on the retraction spring. So if it, you know, fatigues over time or something, you can put in like a spanner or channel locks in here, remove the 4 screws and just clock it. And it even says loosen to tighten is right. So if you wanted a little more strength on your retraction, you could take out those 4 screws, turn this and screw back in, or more depending on how much you want to tighten it. So I thought that was pretty cool that they had that feature. I don't know if other ones have that feature or not, but when I was reviewing these online, I didn't see anybody talk about that. So yeah, overall really happy with it. I actually like it so much, I'm thinking about getting another one for the front yard. So this one will actually reach almost to my front yard, but I have another spigot up there by the driveway by my garage, and I have old school hoses there still, so maybe getting another one to put in the front yard. Yeah, overall really impressed with it. So happy with the purchase. Again, I'll leave links That's what I got it. I think for the price, it's a really good deal. No issues with the quality. It's been hot. It's been 90, 100 degrees this past month. And I mean, granted, it's not a super long time, but I have no signs of like any kind of sun damage or anything on it yet. So, and granted, you know, you can just unhook it and, you know, grab the handle, pop it off, and, you know, put it in the shed, put it in the garage during the winter. So really happy with the purchase. I recommend it. Yeah, I think it's one of the better ones. It's the only ones I've ever used, and I'm happy with the decision. But that's going to wrap up this video. Thanks for watching. All right, bye.